Okay. Sorry for the couple of minutes delay. So hi everyone, this is Young-Guk Wan from School of Energy and Chemical Engineering. So welcome to the 8th CNI webinar. So in general, like most of us are just working on science and engineering, but I believe the political strategy also plays a very important role in achieving net zero society. So therefore, today we have invited a very special speaker, the Cindy Kim, who is the Deputy Country Director and Head of Trade at Department for International Trade from British Embassy in South Korea. So let me briefly introduce her career. So she studied undergrad at Mater Christi College in Melbourne, Australia in 1998, and obtained a Master of Business Administration at California Southern University in 2005. So she completed a couple of the specialist programs, including Advanced Project Management at Stanford University in 2014, the Women in Economics at London School of Economics and Political Science in 2018. She became the Policy Fellow at Center for Science and Policy at University of Cambridge from 2020. So formerly, she was a Senior Research Manager at Global Intelligence at the Gerson Lehman Group at San Francisco and Shanghai in the field of energy and industrials, including the natural resources, alternative renewable energies, and transportation. In 2014, she joined the British Embassy in South Korea. So Cindy's activity so far has been recognized with awards, including a Rising Star at the UK Government Civil Service Award in 2019, and an Inspiring Leader Award at Department for International Trade, Asia Pacific in 2021. So today, Cindy will introduce UK's Netzero Strategy. So let's welcome the speaker.
Professor Kwon, thank you so much for the introduction. So should I go ahead now?
For just a moment, actually, we need to share the slide. So once it pops up, then I will let you know. Yeah, it comes up. Yeah, we can start.
Great, thank you so much. So I don't get to see who is listening to the seminar today. Okay, I was hoping that I will get to meet students, even if it is online, but I'm very honored to be doing a seminar with you today. Thank you so much for inviting me to share UK's Net Zero Strategy to UNIST. I know it's one of the best science and innovation universities in Korea, and you guys are getting a lot of international reputation quickly ramping up. So I'm very proud of the UNIST professors and also the students who are prospecting their future there. I'd like to especially thank Professor Sung-Yoon Kim, the Dean of College of Engineering, for the invitation approval, and also Professor Young-Guk Kwon, who also has the Young-Guk as the UK Korean word for it, to extend an initial invitation to me. I didn't realize that the Professor Kwon will give me a full introduction of the of my background, but just so you're aware, just to give you a brief introduction, I'm coming from about 17 years of private sector experience, and now I've been working for UK government for about over 8 years, which has served me very well. So I am very much enjoying various of fields, whether it's the regulation, policy, or the commercial diplomacy at the place that I work. So before our presentation, I also like to say I'm very much humbled by the level of enthusiasm and professionalism by the presenters of the international seminar. I've seen the list. You have quite a list of speakers from all around the world, and I've noticed that I am the only one that are not a professor. So it's again, it's an honor to be here. So as Professor Kwon introduced, my name is Cindy Kim. I'm currently Deputy Country Director and Head of Trade at the British Embassy in Seoul. And also concurrently, I take the lead on one of the our divisions, which is Department for International Trade. It's one of our main objectives are to secure UK and global prosperity by promoting and financing international trade and investment and championing free trade. So basically, we help to arrange FTA agreements and business commercial opportunities, whether it's bilateral or multilateral frame settings. So my presentation today is very much coming from economic growth and commercial benefits perspective, looking at UK's net zero strategy. So move on to next slide, please. So I would like to give a quick intro to, so today I actually prepared this table of contents, but I realized as I was looking at it last night that I'll give you sort of a quick glance of the UK Net Zero Strategy and also 10 points for Korean Industrial Revolution, and also because of the recent Russian-Ukraine situation, how the British energy security strategy had changed. I will not go through in any details of the net zero strategy by sector or industries, but I'll briefly touch upon COP26, the UK being the global leader for the climate change and when it comes to net zero policy. And also at the end, I would like to give you a quick glance of what I do on a daily basis with in a UK-Korea bilateral relation and what we are doing when it comes to net zero and climate change and industrial transformation agenda. So move on to next one, please. So last year, the government published net zero strategy. So it's setting out a pathway to reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Since then, as you know, the Russian invasion of Ukraine and other global factors have fundamentally changed the economic landscape in the UK, placing huge pressure on households and business through high energy prices and broader inflationary pressures. Given this changed economic context, the government has commissioned a review into its approach to net zero to better understand the impact of the different ways to deliver its net zero pathway on the UK public and economy and maximize economic opportunities of the transition. So, but the government is committed to reaching net zero greenhouse emissions by 2050. UK strategy for net zero is to lead the world in ending our contribution to climate change while turning mission into greatest opportunity for jobs, prosperity for UK, our country, and since the Industrial Revolution. So removing dirty fossil fuels from the global economy will lead the creation of vast new global industries from offshore wind to electric vehicles and carbon capture and storage. By moving first and making the UK birthplace of the Green Industrial Revolution, we are building a defining competitive edge. Through our 10-point plan, we have already attracted over 5.8 billion pounds of new inward investment in just over 10 months, and that will create and support hundreds and thousands of new high-skilled and high-wage green jobs. So over the last 3 decades, we have already reduced our emission by 44%. And while growing economy over 75%. And this strategy sets our plan going the rest of the way. Can we move on to next, please? We will meet the global climate emergency, but not with panicked or short-term or self-destructive measures as some have urged. Instead, we will unleash the unique creative power of capitalism to drive the innovation that will bring the cost of going green. So we make net zero a net win for people, for industry, and for the UK, and also for the planet. The net zero strategy sets out how we'll make historical transitions to remove carbon from our power, retire internal combustion engine from our vehicles, and start to phase out gas boilers from our homes. But it also shows how we will do this fairly by making carbon-free alternatives cheaper. This is to make sure what you pay for green and clean electricity is competitive with carbon-laden gas and with most of our electricity coming from the wind farms of the North Sea and state-of-the-art British nuclear reactors. We will reduce our vulnerability to sudden price rises caused by fluctuating international fossil fuel markets. Can we move to next one, please? So this one is the 10 point for a green industrial revolution. If you can see on the screen, it talks about 10 priorities of the industrial transformation. So for example, offshore wind, producing enough offshore wind to power every home. So how much we produce to 40 gigawatts by 2030. We are supporting up to 60,000 jobs. Hydrogen, working with the industry, aiming to generate 5 gigawatts of low carbon hydrogen production capacity by 2030 for industry, transport, power, homes, developing the first town heated entirely by hydrogen by the end of the decade. And the nuclear, advancing nuclear as a clean energy source. I know there is still bit of a debate on nuclear, whether it's a renewable energy source or not, but UK government has recognized that we will support advancing nuclear power sector as a clean energy source and to meet the requirement given that of the current energy security situation. So across large scale nuclear and developing the next generation of small advanced reactors, which could support about 10,000 jobs. And also electric vehicles, backing our world leading car manufacturing bases, including the West Midlands, North East, and North Wales to accelerate the transition to electric vehicles and transforming our national infrastructure to better support electric vehicles. Fifth is the public transport and cycling and walking, making cycling and walking more attractive ways to travel and investing in zero emission public transport of the future. So that's zero and greener maritime. So we are also supporting difficult to decarbonize industries to become greener through research projects for zero emission planes and ships. Homes and public buildings. We're making our homes and schools and hospitals greener, warmer, and more energy efficient whilst creating about 50,000 jobs by 2030 and a target to install 600,000 heat pumps every year by 2028. And carbon capture, which is very, very important, it's becoming a world leader in technology to capture and store harmful emissions away from the atmosphere and with a target to remove 10 million tons of carbon dioxide by 2030, equivalent to all emissions by the industrial Humber today. And the ninth is the nature, protecting and restoring our natural environment, planting about 30,000 hectares of trees every year, whilst creating and retaining the thousands of jobs. And the last one, 10th, but not least, very important, innovation and finance. So developing the cutting edge technologies needed to reach these new energy ambitions and make the city of London and also the whole nation the global center of green finance. Next one, please. Okay, let me just go through a sort of a bigger picture of this. So this strategy shows how we can build back greener going forward. In 2050, we will still be driving cars, flying planes and heating homes, but our cars will be electric gliding silently around our cities. At least that's our hope anyway. Our planes will be zero emission, allowing us to fly guilt-free, and our homes will be heated by cheap, reliable power drawn from the winds of the North Sea. At least that's the vision. And everywhere we look, in every part of the UK, there will be jobs, but not just jobs, but good jobs, green jobs, and well-paid jobs. Leveling up, that means the regional development in the UK while squashing down our carbon emissions. That is the clean and prosperity future that we and everyone in the world is waiting for. Next one, please. We'll move the next one, please. Because we have a lot to go through. I'll skip all the details. Next one, please. And the next one. And the next one. Great, that's it. So UK has already taken bold steps towards net zero, including bringing forward the end of sales of new petrol diesel cars to 2030. And we have committed over 12 billion of domestic green investments since March 2020 and have doubled our international climate finance commitment to 11.6 billion between 2021 to 25. This strategy also sets out the next steps as we will take to cut our emissions, seize green economy opportunities, and leverage further private investment into net zero. The policies and spending brought forward in the net zero strategy mean that since the 10-point plan, we have mobilized over 26 billion pounds of government capital investment for the green industrial revolution. Along with the regulation, this will support about 190,000 jobs by 2025 and also 440,000 jobs by 2030. So leveraging up to about 90 billion of pounds or billion private investment by 2030, this will put us on an ambitious path to meet our 6 carbon budget and our NDC the target and cutting emissions by at least 68% by 2030 on 1990 levels. Reaching net zero by 2050. And that's a huge vision and that's a lot to do, but that's our goal. Next one, please. So the key strategy. All right. So April this year, the Prime Minister, back then that was the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, launched energy security strategy. It's the British plan for greater energy independence, as I mentioned earlier, following on Russia's invasion of Ukraine and also rising global energy prices. The government's energy security plans out how Great Britain will accelerate the deployment of wind, nuclear, new nuclear, solar, hydrogen, while supporting the production of domestic oil and gas in the near term, which we could see 95% of electricity by 2030 being low carbon. This strategy gives a significant acceleration of nuclear with an ambition of up to 24 gigawatt by 2050 to come from this safe, clean, and reliable source of power. This would represent up to around 25% of our projected electricity demand. And subject to technology readiness from industry, so nuclear power SMR will form a key part of the nuclear project pipeline as well. So there will be a new government body, Great British Nuclear. We set up immediately to bring forward new projects backed by substantial funding, of which is the £120 million Future Nuclear Enabling Fund will be launched. Actually will be launched this month, and also the government will work to progress a series of projects as soon as possible in this decade. This could mean delivering up to 8 reactors equivalent to 1 reactor each year instead of 1 a decade, accelerating nuclear power in Britain. So a couple of few changes from 10-point Green Industrial Revolution. So offshore wind will be a new ambition up to, instead of 40 gigawatts, it will be up to 50 gigawatt by 2030, which means it's more than enough to power every home in the UK. And oil and gas will be licensing out a new North Sea oil gas projects planned to launch later this month with a new task force providing bespoke support to new developments. And onshore wind will be supporting that. Next slide, please. And also heat pump manufacturing, nuclear, solar, hydrogen, and network storage flexibility. Can I just go back to the previous slide? Yeah, I just wanted to highlight in particular about the hydrogen sector, because this is something that I have discussed greatly with Professor Kwan as well. So UK also announced the UK hydrogen strategy, national strategy. So hydrogen, because hydrogen will play a crucial role in the future of the UK energy system. Our ambition is for up to about 100 gigawatts of low carbon hydrogen production capacity by 2030, which will help to create a thriving hydrogen economy in the UK. Analysis of the hydrogen strategy shows that the low carbon hydrogen will play a key role in the UK, whole UK energy system. It's becoming comparable in scale to existing electricity use by 2050. So the government has drawn the hydrogen investment roadmap that showcases the UK hydrogen offer and also the scale of our ambition for the role of the hydrogen economy in meeting net zero. It's spotlights the exciting investment opportunities across the hydrogen value chain, whether it's from production through transmission and storage to the range of potential end use, including power, transport, and heating. This includes the details of recent policy announcements, which together sort of represents the next substantial step forward in developing a thriving UK hydrogen economy. Thank you. Next slide, please. All right, we'll move to next one. Yep, that's case study for you to, you can share the presentation later with the students. So those who are interested, you can see the case studies of the UK Net Zero Strategy, how the government has supported industry and companies to develop their innovation and technologies. Next one, please. Yep, next one. I briefly touched on this one. Next one, please. Next one. Yep. Sorry, I skipped through a lot, didn't I? Yep. Yep. Next one. All right, next one. I think next one too. All right, that's it. So UK clean growth. So what is clean growth and why clean growth and what does that mean? So industry transformation clean growth. It's the conceptual definition. So how we define clean growth, I think the American government also used the word clean growth quite a lot when it comes to industry transformation, targeting net zero. But internally, how we defined clean growth, we said the clean growth for my department, especially Department for International Trade, it means that we are promoting economic growth through trade and investment while mitigating the impact on climate change, preserving the environment, and adapting to the impacts of climate change. Next one, please. So the clean growth is not a sector, but it's more of cross-cutting theme. So encompassing technologies and approaches across sectors. So all sectors have an important role to play in responding to the clean growth agenda. So clean growth is about cementing the UK's position as climate leader by maximizing the economic opportunities of the global low carbon transition by driving UK clean supply chain growth by securing investment, growing industries and capability, and to export globally. So the UK is developing a leading offer across the clean growth economy, including renewable energy, zero emission, vehicle technologies, sustainable consumption, infrastructure, and green finance. The UK's domestic decarbonization agenda is primarily led by the legally binding target of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. UK has 6 main areas of focus when considering domestic decarbonization targets, which are also mapped out onto the clean growth strategy. So as you can see, next one, please. Clean transport. That's the 27% of emission, including road transport, domestic shipping, and rail. Next one, please. Next one. Next one. And the energy supply, which is the 21 of emissions, that includes gas and coal. So if you look at the screen now, you can see the sustainable infrastructure and how UK government is trying and speaking with the industry to transform and transition to cleaner energy. Next one, please. And also business, which is about 17% of emissions. That includes industrial combustion, commercial buildings, and next one, please. And this one, obviously, as I mentioned, the offshore wind and a lot of focus on floating offshore wind, and as I mentioned earlier, nuclear energy and waste to value transition as well. Move on to next one. Also would like to highlight these clean energy areas that I know that for sure that Korea is also focusing much on that. Next one. Next one, please. This is also very, very important. Before the energy security announcement, the oil and gas decommissioning was a part of a big government agenda. But I guess, and also nuclear decommissioning and waste management. It's one area that the UK has a huge expertise on. But I guess because of the current Russian-Ukraine situation, the energy security strategy has become very important, and somewhat had to move the directions and shifted the direction so that it meets the immediate requirement needs of the house demands energy and also to control the energy prices. So I know the slide now, it shows the decommissioning of oil and gas and nuclear, but since then the government's direction has shifted slightly. Next one, please. And I mentioned the also UK announced the National Hydrogen Strategy, which is something that we are at the moment picking up quite a lot in terms of implement and how we are going to realize the national strategy into different through government department divisions, and how we make that deliver within the business and industry, and also that delivers that to each homes in the UK. Next one, please. Great. And before I move on to COP26, I just also wanted to highlight a few other things that we have included in the clean growth strategy. So I mentioned clean transport, energy supply, business, which is also 17% of emissions. That includes industrial combustion and commercial buildings. And also 2% of the emissions include industrial processes, which consists emissions from industry, except for those associated with fuel combustion. And also residential greener buildings, which is about 15%. And agriculture waste management, which is about 14%. And public sector, slightly less than 2% of emissions, but we felt that's also important. And the last one was sustainable consumption. So UK sectors are also driven by both the UK domestic decarbonization ambitions and then also global opportunities and demand from the global shift to clean growth. The nature of the clean growth means the sector interest goes beyond the decarbonization themes, and also we have a lot of talking points as we would like to take the leads on the clean and also climate change agenda in the world. My department, which is a Department for International Trade, has a very critical role to play in delivering the clean growth agenda, because we would like to maximize the economic value of the climate change and net zero as we shift to the net zero economy, and we like to prove that we can deliver for the UK alongside delivering for UK's ambition, domestic and international climate ambitions. So UK's world leading domestic net zero ambitions, together with our international climate leadership, we have a clear signals to business and investors of the UK commitment to clean growth. Over the past 30 years, the UK has been at the forefront of the transition to green, demonstrating the economic growth, which is aligned with protecting the climate environment. Growing GDP by 75% whilst reducing emissions 43%. So the clean growth agenda is also a core function of all the department of the UK government, especially for Department for International Trade. It's a central function. So whether we talk about trade policy or export promotions or attracting foreign direct investment, these functions will play important roles advancing the net zero agenda. So for example, to give you a quick sub area agendas is that we use the UK independent trade policy to reduce barriers to green trade, and we also promote the UK green exports, delivering our green solution overseas. So the government is committed to maximizing the advantage from a global shift to clean economic growth, including UK's ambitions, as I mentioned in the earlier 10-point plan, to drive a green industrial revolution. So economic recovery from COVID-19 gives us the chance to build back a greener and more resilient way whilst boosting green jobs and accelerating cost reductions in key technologies. So on to UK's COP26 leadership legacy and I'm coming from a very business and commercial perspective. So what happened at COP26? In November 2021, the UK hosted the crucial UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, and we delivered the Glasgow Climate Pact. This was the biggest summit that we have hosted, in bringing together about 120 world leaders and over 38,000 key figures from governments, civil society, business, and youth to tackle the urgent challenge of climate change. So our key aims were to keep live the possibility of limiting the rise in global temperature to 1.5 Celsius to help the world to adopt and protect communities and natural habitats, to reduce emissions, to deliver finance, and particularly to support the most vulnerable to adopt the climate impacts, and to work together to deliver a safe and inclusive COP. And we believe we have delivered. The Glasgow Climate Pact is historical agreement. The gap in ambition has narrowed, and we now have net zero commitments for over 90% of world economy, up to 30% 2 years ago, and when the UK took the COP26 presidency. The 1.5 Celsius is live, but this is based on commitments made and relies on concerted and dedicated delivery by all countries. We'll continue to demonstrate strong UK leadership over our presidency year to make sure that all the promises are kept and delivered to the highest standard. Working with parties and civil society partners to further the necessary efforts to advance the rapid growth. Next one, please. So the Race to Zero campaign we launched to run up to COP26 has grown to include 7,552 businesses and also 1,100 cities and 541 investors, 52 regions, and 1,100 education establishments, and 60 healthcare organizations, including National Health Services. All of these organizations are committed to net zero by 2050. Next one, please. Oh, going back up to the next, yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's fine. The last few things before I open the floor for any questions. Couple of more things of COP26. So we were able to get, when it comes to coal, about 11 new financial institutes joining PPCA. Also cars, firms representing about 130 ton dollars. Trees, we have about 30 institutions representing about 8.7 trillion committing to tackle agri-commodity drive deforestation. And also new partnerships, the Glasgow breakthrough, and much more. I'll not go through the details. So our focus on the COP26 and when it comes to climate change leader, it basically sets a few main themes, which are on the slide, the top one: mitigation, adaptation, finance, and collaboration. I think these four themes are fairly important, and that is the main pillars that we need to hold our accountability. And as we just finished COP26 in Egypt, there are a lot of still remained tasks as a whole. The world and the global economy need to fall in and deliver. But I think, it's not so pessimistic, and we need to look at it in a more positive and growing mindset. So what happened after COP26, and what's remained for us? So the UK government now has a solid net zero strategy in place, as you have heard today, this morning. But there's still very important policy gaps remained. And tangible progress is lagging the policy ambition. So we are trying very hard with an ambition path set for the UK and the net zero strategy, which was published last year, and greater emphasis and focus must be placed on delivery. So since then, we, every department and also in the public and the private sector, we are extremely pushing ourselves hard to make the vision and implementation to work. The successful delivery of changes on the ground requires active management of delivery tasks. Not all policies will deliver as planned, but some may be more successful than expected, while others, may fall behind. Action to address the rising cost of living should be aligned with net zero. There remains an urgent need for equivalent action to reduce demand for fossil fuels, to reduce emissions and limit energy bills. Slow progress on wider enablers. So net zero strategy contained very warm and nice words on many of cross-cutting enablers of the transition, but there has been slight less concrete progress. So that's something that we need to focus on. Emissions rose 4% in 2021 compared to 2020 as the economy began to recover from COVID-19 pandemic. So we still have a lot to do. Before I finish, as I mentioned, I don't have a slide, but I'd like to give you a quick glance of what I do on a daily basis. So next one, please, the final thank you slide. So I would like to end our seminar with some remarks on UK-Korea relation when it comes to the net zero strategy. So UK sees the answer to the present energy crisis and longer-term climate crisis through the coexistence of thriving renewable energy. At the strategic level, the UK and South Korea bilateral framework, which was proposed at G7 by Boris Johnson and the former President Moon, and now it's been passed on to President Yoon, and he has agreed a broader new partnership on energy. And Renewables Corporation was a key partner pillar of this agreement. The cooperation will solve tomorrow's challenges, and of course, but we also need to face up to today's one. With that in mind, I wanted to sort of welcome Korea's current government's innovation-driven carbon neutrality committee, and also UNIST new faculty I was quite excited to hear that you have this new bright, promising, and future-forward division. I want to be clear that much of the technology needed to drive decarbonization, such as solar, offshore wind, it's already in existence. But because we welcome Korea's desire to be net zero global pivot state, I firmly believe that Korea has the potential to be both world's nuclear and renewables powerhouse. Acknowledging that there are a range of factors which drive energy policy, 4 factors I wanted to finish off. I think we all know the roots of the crisis, the impact on our businesses and citizens. But the avoidance of doubt is a crisis caused by Russia, and also reliance on many nations on fossil fuels, whose price has sparked due to unprecedented supply challenges. Today, I wanted to say that this crisis has forced unarguably first-time factors such as sustainability, economic security, commercial opportunities to align and point towards to accelerated energy transition. So the renewables is a very key part of the solution. The sustainability argument for accelerated transition has been known for some time. The IPCC's analysis is very clear, as you know. I'm sure that you know much more than I do, that the scientific evidence points more to 1 degree Celsius of human-induced warming having already taken place since the dawn of Industrial Revolution. The analysis after COP26 showed the global response is also insufficient unless significantly more is done to reduce emissions this decade. Our ability to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius will quickly disappear. And the less we do mitigate our emissions, the more we will spend longer term in adapting our economies to higher temperatures, fixing loss and damage. Renewables can, and if political will is there, will need to be rolled out quickly, and as I explained previously, cost effectively to reduce fossil fuel usage. But the current crisis, as you know, is wreaking havoc our economies. Korea saw unprecedented trade deficit in August this year. Largely, it's because of the consequences of sky-high cost of energy imports. Technologies such as nuclear is, of course, one of the solutions, the large solutions. But the principal benefit of the renewables is the potential for swifter rollout. This can be achieved, including through accompanying improvements to grid infrastructure at a cost whose appeal is without precedent. Before the obvious is stated, I absolutely appreciate the UK is not Korea, and cost for offshore wind will not fully be possible in Korea due to a range of factors, including infrastructure and market design. But these UK figures do provide striking example of how economics of the energy transition have transformed in 2022. As the higher fossil move is keep spiking, I feel certain that Korea will look once more at practical ways to further reduce its energy imports. COVID had already highlighted the global interdependency of supply chains. And that is why in the UK, we set extremely ambitious target of being a net energy exporter by 2040, because our government is determined that we will never again risk our energy sovereignty. But this is not just to solve the UK, it's actually global pattern, I'm sure you know. And it's where I would urge Korea to be more assertive in identifying and exploiting its own domestic energy sources to vastly reduce 90+ % energy imports. Domestically produced renewables will not be at the whims of dictators, and they offer protection from excessive fossil fuel costs for citizens and businesses. And as the IEA have said, accelerating the energy transition is a solution to easing international gas markets. Whilst I focus a lot on challenges so far, I wanted to conclude with some words on commercial opportunities. Let's quickly reflect on the recent SPAC announcement of RE100. Many of you are very familiar with. Samsung, SK, Hyundai, and LG have responded to the demand of global supply chains to achieve RE100. It's a hugely important business signal for more renewable energy in Korea. While I am surprised that we're not seeing in tandem, it's a stronger resolve from one of the world's leading manufacturing economies to own a bigger piece of quickly growing renewable energy pie. Offshore wind, Korean companies are already winning contracts. But I'm concerned that Korea's long-term ability to win contracts in the offshore wind sector, given that China's vast and growing scale, in the absence of exceptionally ambitious domestic offshore market. The global business opportunity is of a magnitude of hundreds of billions of dollars this decade. And many of these opportunities are on Korea's doorstep. In nations such as Vietnam, where ambition and potential for offshore wind is vast, and where Korea has worked hard to be economic partner of choice. And of course, hydrogen is Korea is the global player. And so hugely, I root Korea for that. But as I have said before, I also firmly believe there are compelling sustainability, economic security, and commercial reasons for coexisting with ambitious and thriving renewable energies, energy sector, and together to deliver net zero ambition. Thank you.
Right, Cindy, it was a really great introduction about UK's Netzero Strategy. Even, to find your insightful, like a comment on Korean government, like, the strategies. And yeah, actually, this is the open Q&A session, but basically, as I mentioned earlier, actually, the engineers or scientists are not really familiar with the kind of like a political issues or even the economics.
Yes, sure.
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah, if there's any question from student or the audience, actually, you are free to, to mention something. But otherwise, before we go, personally, I have some big question. Actually, basically, you mentioned that, so like the UNIST is kind of like the leading university in the the renewable energies, and also we have launched like the carbon neutrality institute. So I think we have like we can find many chances for the future collaboration.
Yes.
So in that sense, do you think you have any chance to visit the UNIST for the future engagement?
Actually, I'd love to. So send me an invitation. And I believe that our ambassador has briefly visited UNIST before, and we'll love to take an opportunity to visit. And as you say, to actually iron out any potential partnerships and how, if we could connect you to UK R&D centers or equivalent universities, that will be a greatly beneficial, mutually beneficial opportunity for both UK and Korea.
Yeah, thank you very much for the strong engagement. All right, seems like this is already time to close session. If there's no more question, then I'd like to thanks again for your great time and also great introduction about the future strategy. Thank you again, and then hope to see you soon at UNIST.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you everyone to listen to my presentation and seminar today. Hope everyone has a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.